I'm recording now. I don't know why I can't remember that, but we are recording. So, is there any plans to address the odor from Southmont Cove Lake? Yes. So Solitude has been on site multiple times the last couple of weeks, testing lakes as well as applying chemicals. You know, one of the big issues was the amount of salt water that encroached in these lakes, and we're definitely seeing some fish kills and things like that. But that is part of their process, hopefully to rebalance these lakes and to merge out or purge out, if you will, the smells, the salt, that sort of thing. Does CJC have to have documented water logs or moisture readings to come in and tear out 4 feet of tile in the bathrooms? And if they do, why don't they just take all the tile out? That's a good question. So yeah, I mean, they're following the water mapping information for these units. You know, what your associations have contracted Clyde Johnson for is remediation up to the insurance limits. So insurance will support a 4-foot drywall cut and 4-foot tile cut, but they're not going to support removing the rest of the tile. That would be something that would need to be done in the restoration phase of this project, as we're not going to get insurance claim money to remove more than what needs to be remediated. And I understand that's a predicament for a lot of y'all, because how are you going to match your tile, et cetera? We get it. I mean, that is a problem. But the reality is, you know, your associations are following the guidance of the experts out there that they've employed, as well as what the insurance adjusters and insurance guidelines are for remediating this. And they really have to follow that. If they don't, they end up jeopardizing the entirety of the claim. So I know it's going to be an issue with the matching of tile and how do you do that, but that's going to have to be addressed and figured out as we get into restoration. Can you please explain why we're having a second water mapping process on Middlebrook? Yeah, good question. So I mentioned before, and it was actually out in that one email that we sent out, that you know, that initial water mapping, the preliminary report identified that there were definitely units, and Middlebrook was the predominant street where there were some units that did not experience the same level of moisture and storm surge and water intrusion as other ones. And so Clyde Johnson's group, what they did is they wanted to confirm that for the association. So they had a second opinion just to make sure. And that has been confirmed. So I can tell you, because I just got out of a board meeting with Somerset, you will have a communication. It may be later this afternoon. I'm just being realistic in terms of the logistics to draft it and get your board to look it over. But you are going to get a pretty big email this afternoon with quite a few updates, including an updated schedule, as well as identifying those units that were determined not to take the same extent of water damage, which means the remediation isn't going to be as extensive. So just hold tight. Appreciate the patience. I know everybody's frustrated that report didn't come out sooner than it did, but you know, we have that now. Your association does, and they just met on that and should be forthcoming with some information. Can the club help with disposing of golf cart batteries that are unusable due to flooding? I will look into that. There's nothing that I know of that we have in our arsenal for that, but if we can provide some resources for a company to come get those, maybe I'll make a note. I'll ask Danny if that's something. Maybe he can reach out. Maybe he's got peers in the industry that can give us a good lead on that. So, but I don't have anything right now to give you, and don't have a program set up for that. Is CJC replacing the flooring? If we want different laminate, should we order it? So again, these are restoration questions. We're not ready to talk about restoration yet, but I can tell you that your association presidents are just beginning to discuss options, understand what the logistics are, what the legalities are, what they can do, not do, what they could have owners do on their own. So we're hopeful that as we start down that process of organizing that information, we can start providing that to you. If your internet's down in 16471 Edgemont, it looks like, I don't know of any issues with the internet in general, so it may be something localized. Again, I know it stinks, but I'd have you probably try to get in touch with Comcast. I have heard a few more success stories with getting in touch with them as of late. I think with most people online, it's a little easier to get in touch. The unit below us on Southmont Cove flooded. However, its air conditioner has not been running for weeks. Yesterday, a crew on another AC unit on the AC platform saw that the problem unit was not working and entered the apartment to turn the breaker off so it does not catch fire. Obviously, mold is an issue. Yeah, I mean, I get you. I mean, they're in force at Southmont Cove. I mean, if you've got a particular issue with a particular unit or something, you can send myself or your board an email and we'll look at that for you. Is the bathroom wall tile that is taken out covered in the policy? Yes, that's our understanding, that there will be a value assigned to whatever tile they take out. But I think I already addressed the issue of if they take out 4 feet and there's a value to replace 4 feet, what do you do with the remainder of that wall? We hired a private contractor to remediate and renovate our home. We are ready for drywall. They want to start tomorrow. When can we get the home inspected? Good question. I don't know what community you're in, but we just talked about at Monday's meeting, associations putting together their plans to connect with those of you that we have on record for providing your own subcontractor. And there is going to be an inspection process where Clyde Johnson's team will come in, make sure that what was remediated aligns with the water mapping report. Different associations are at different levels in that process. I would suggest contacting your association leadership to see exactly where they're at, but all of them have been given information on how that process can work and how we can organize that to try to get through some of you all that say you're ready for an inspection. What plans does Southmont Cove have to enter apartments with non-working AC and have the AC restored? I think I covered that, but I mean, that's what they're trying to do as they work around units. If there's an AC unit in an unoccupied, if there's an AC that's not working in an unoccupied unit, they are putting that on the list for Clyde Johnson electricians to come by to see if they can get it working. If they can't get it working, then there's going to be a communication to the owner, and we're going to ask that the owner remedy that for the time being and hang on to that receipt. Do we need to notate for the crews that we don't need outlets, do not need to be replaced if water was nowhere close? No, they should have that information. Again, I mean, they're working off the reports and information they have. So if they come in and they need to replace an outlet, I'm going to suggest that they do that because they're going off of what they have for information. Yeah, I addressed I agree. I get it. Some of these piles of debris are starting to smell, or they've been smelling for a while. I think I addressed the question about FEMA and when they're coming around, but no, I don't have a definite date. I don't know what their schedule is. Part of me I'm happy to see some trucks rolling through here, and our hope is that they'll get everything at some point in time. Water's turned off. Do I need to turn the water back on? I mean, if your water's been off for more than a few hours, yeah, I would think you can turn it on. The only thing that I'd caution you is it could be off because there's a pipe break that hasn't been fixed as well. So I mean, again, if you're in a unit that's being remediated and you vacated, I would not worry about turning your water back on. You don't need it on. Clyde Johnson will make sure it's on if they need it. Yeah, once CJC is finished with remediation, another question here about what they're contracted to do as far as restoration. We don't have those details, but no, your association has not contracted at present with Clyde Johnson to do the restoration. I think there'll be some various options potentially for you, but that's what we're working through right now. But Clyde Johnson has not been contracted for restoration, only for remediation. Once the remediation is completed, can our contractor come in and get the kitchen and one bathroom up and running so we can live in our unit? Again, restoration question, but that would be the hope, is that that's one of the options that the association will provide, is an option for you to contract things out yourself. That way you can work at your own speed. But again, I'm going to stop short at confirming anything at this point until they work through that process. How do they plan to disinfect under the concrete floors under all the stuff stacked in the middle of the rooms? Yeah, good question. I don't have that information, but I'll certainly try to get educated on that part of the process. Nobody is in that stage yet. So hopefully I'll have more information on exactly that process. But again, what they're following are industry standards for Cat 3 remediation as defined, both by OHI, the company that did the water mapping, and the insurance agency. So hopefully I'll have more to give you on that. Will FEMA be picking up appliances? Yes, they will. They're separate trucks that are coming in for different things. So just because they picked up remnants and didn't get the appliances doesn't mean they're not coming back. So we're planning to come down for 2 weeks. Are there air quality issues or other health hazards to be concerned with? Is it safe to leave my car down there till we get back in January? Definitely no reason you can't leave your car here in your parking spot or your driveway or your garage or what have you. With us remediating these units and most of them being vacant now, I think we've minimized any of the air quality or health hazards. And as we work through the remediation process, that's the point of that, is to eliminate any of those concerns. So, but nothing, outside of the units we're remediating, which aren't inhabitable right now, none that I know of. What is the process if the insurance adjuster's allocated amount for your unit is less than the actual cost to restore? Who's responsible for paying the difference? The homeowner. Those are all questions that a lot of us have, and honestly, really can't provide any firm answers until we get those adjuster reports and understand what we're dealing with. I do know this, and I'll correct what I've said because I've found some new information. In the past, I've alluded to the fact that in Hurricane Irma, there was a 3-year period where you could still add claims onto that initial hurricane claim. The difference with Irma and the majority of what we're dealing with Ian is Irma was specifically property insurance claims. Under the flood policy, and I just learned this week, under that flood policy, master flood policy, it's actually a 60-day window. However, the Department of Homeland Security about 2 weeks ago issued a memo stating that they've extended that to 365 days. So what I'm understanding is you will have up to a year from the date of occurrence. So up from a year from September 28th, the day that Ian hit, to go back in and put additional requests for the claim. So if the report comes out and they didn't include something that should have been included, you and your association will have the ability for up to a year, until September of next year, to add anything in that. There's a couple of questions here specific about Somerset Villas. I'll defer to a communication that'll be coming out later today. That's really going to be packed with a lot of, I think, very worthwhile information. So wait for that email. Sorry, I just got a couple questions we've already answered, so I'm just scrolling through here. Will we be having associated meetings at some point? Absolutely. I can't give you the exact timeline. I know all the ones or for October were canceled, except for Sutton Walk. They're still having one tomorrow, open meetings. But I know that's something that all of your presidents discussed at our last president's meeting, was getting back on track with regular board meetings. So I see those starting back up here in the near future. A question here about turning in receipts for air conditioners. Again, hang on to your receipts. I don't know when we'll have this process up and running, but it won't be any time before we get those insurance settlements starting to come in for each association, but there'll be a system to turn those in for inclusion into the claim and reimbursement. We have not received a water mapping report for Somerset Villas and for our unit in particular. How do we know what our private contractors should be doing to complete remediation? I mean, if you hired a private contractor, I mean, you're certainly going to know when it comes to inspection time what needs to be done. But I think we've been very clear in terms of what the standard is. Whether you hire a subcontractor or whether Clyde Johnson's doing these units, any porous surface that came in contact with Cat 3 water needs to be disposed of. So, I mean, that's pretty clear direction. I mean, if you've got water that touched those cabinets or touched baseboards or walls, those things need to be cut out and disposed of. If CJC is replacing drywall where they match the texturing that's in our units, I know that was being discussed on how to approach that, whether that's going to be part of the remediation phase or part of the restoration phase. But either way, I mean, that job does need to be done to match that texture. But I just don't have any information on that right now. Yeah, again, if somebody's asking here that they're in Wedgwood and they're ready for an inspection, but they were told by their association that they want to get a group of maybe 4 or 5 ready for inspection. And I get it. I mean, you probably don't want to wait that long, but the reality is, I mean, if we pulled off crews to come inspect units one at a time, it really wouldn't be a very efficient process. So the reality is, I'm sure there's a few others in your boat that are probably approaching that point. So your inspection will happen soon, but yeah, the associations aren't just going to stop what Clyde Johnson's groups are doing and run over and inspect one unit at a time. They're going to try to do it in batches for efficiency's sake. Our AC unit failed yesterday. The technician said it was not if, but when your unit will fail. It's not, technician said it's not if, but when your unit will fail. The salt water damaged all the condensers and capacitors. You may want to be out in front of this and just get a new unit. Good point. I think that information has been consistent, that most air conditioner companies will tell you that you're going to have problems with the AC unit down the line, and they very well could be right. However, my recommendation has been, we know air conditioning units are covered in under that master flood policy. What we don't know is, how is the insurance company going to handle the fact that you replaced your AC unit because you were told it's going to fail down the line? I have no idea how they're going to handle that. They very well may say, yep, you're right, we're going to replace it. So those of you that elect to get a new AC unit without the previous one failing, I'm just letting you know, you're definitely taking on a little bit of risk there, because I don't have a clear answer to that. And we probably won't until we get these adjuster reports back to see if adjusters just wrote in new AC units for everybody. Because, if that is the industry standard, you would think that would be the approach from the insurance carrier, but we don't have that information to confirm yet. So that'd be my advisement. Question here about taking out the dishwasher to remove the drywall behind it. Yes, I mean, if they're taking out your cabinets, they're gonna pull that dishwasher back and remediate that drywall. Question about when remediation is going to be complete in Southmont Cove. I don't have that date for you, but as soon as people can kind of forecast that schedule, I'm sure your association is going to provide it. What's the ETA of pools and gym opening? Main pool is open. I don't know the time frame on the Tiki, but I know they're getting close there. They're also in the communities working on the community pools. The gym does still need to go through some remediation. I hope we're down to days or even a week or so for the gym to open, but don't quote me on that. The fitness center room where the classes are, that's going to need a new floor in there, so that's probably a little longer out. But I think we're getting close to another wave of amenities opening up here over the next week to 10 days or so. So keep close in tune with communications, but we're working through a lot of those things and trying to get those things up and running. Question here about will remediation in all units need to be completed before restoration starts? Again, I think that's a tough question. I think it'll probably be more centralized on remediation done for an entire building as opposed to across the entire property. Definitely, you won't need to wait for the entire property, all 500 units, to be remediated. I would think they'll approach this more on a building by building basis. But again, I'm speaking from opinion than fact here, letting you know what I would think would be reasonable. But again, those decisions haven't been made yet. Will CHC remove appliances that were in floodwater? From my understanding is they're not going to remove them and throw them away, but they'll move them out of the way because they're going to need to get behind them to get the drywall, et cetera. Since they're taking 4 feet out throughout the entire unit, why doesn't the associations address the very fragile water lines that cause all kinds of water issues on a regular basis? I think that's a reasonable question, but I also think there's a lot more to it than simply replacing the piping in first floor units. I mean, obviously, if you're going to do that, you would do that for the entire building. That's also something that's not covered underneath your insurance claim. And I can tell you, I don't think any association has any reserve funding to replace pipes in buildings. And for those that have went through this process before, you understand how expensive that is. So that would require some sort of funding mechanism, i.e. assessment, to do that. And I'm not so sure that's the prudent move right now, even though it would make sense for first floor units, potentially. If you're going to do it, you would do them all together. So again, just speaking, I guess, you can ask your association more in detail. I'm just kind of giving you, I guess, my perspective on maybe why associations wouldn't decide to do that right now, even though it seems like a practical idea. There's a little bit more to it. Yeah, I think I answered that question. Association boards plan to have information sessions. Yes, I think that you're going to see them get back online with their meetings. When will the lanais be cleaned out on the first floor units? Focus is on those first floor residential units right now. So as soon as they get moving and get into that progress, crews will come back around and hit lanais, garages, that sort of thing. Yeah, please confirm all AC units will be placed in the process. No, I'm not. I've never said that. I'm not going to confirm that they're all going to be replaced. Just the opposite. If yours is broken and you want to replace it now, I feel confident that that's going to be covered in your claim. But I'm going to repeat, if it's not broken and your AC vendor says it's going to fail on you eventually, if you decide to replace it now, I don't know how that's going to be handled with the insurance carrier. I just don't have that information. Yeah, there's some questions here again about restoration. I'm just going to move on. I mean, I don't have answers about mirrors being restored and if you can change your grout color. Again, those are all restoration questions. Are golf bags stored on the floor in the barn ruin? No, we did not take water in the cart barn. So all of the bags that are stored in the cart facility are fine. Is there a list of workers willing to move furniture out to the curb? Some of us are physically unable to do that and have no outside help. I don't have a list of Lexington staff that would be available to do that. However, I can tell you that I've seen multiple posts on Facebook with referrals for people that can help or other owners that can help. or maybe ask your neighbors if they've seen those posts, but I have seen those floating around. Yeah, asking a question about having floors finished under cabinets and dishwashers prior to the new install. Again, restoration question. I mean, if that's something that you elect to do, I mean, that may be prudent for you to do that, but that's not part of the remediation phases. Will CJC clean out garages in Sutton Walker? Do I need to hire somebody to do that? Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, you know, I eventually they're going to get down there and do some of that. But especially if you've got personal property or anything that, you know, potentially is going to be salvageable, I would suggest cleaning out those garages or hiring somebody. If you do hire somebody, hang on to that receipt. It's very possible that that could be included in the claim as well. But if you have the wherewithal to do that, there's no reason why you can't move forward with that. Gotcha. Somebody just made a comment. I'm assuming this person maybe has a Stater Wilhelms that says their company will not pay for a replacement AC unless it's out right now. So again, I think that confirms what I've been stating for a while now, that I don't know how an insurance company is going to handle the fact that you replaced your AC unit because a vendor told you that it's going to eventually fail, even though it's working right now. So good comment. I'm out of questions, so I'll give it another couple minutes or maybe another minute here and see if you got anything else for me. In the restoration phase, will owners have any choices on broken cabinets, counters, tile, etc.? I'm not going to talk about the restoration phase right now. I have no information to provide to you. As soon as we do, we're going to get it out to you. And I know you all want to know about that. Trust me, I want to be in the restoration phase more than you all do. But I don't have that information to provide right now. Okay, guys, thank you very much. We'll get this up on YouTube. Probably looking at, I don't know if we'll do one later this week. I mean, if there's some breaking news or something major, maybe we'll do another Zoom this week. If not, probably plan on a Monday update where I have probably more information to share and hopefully some more positive news from something, because that's what we're all looking for right now. So everybody have a good day. Thanks for coming out.